Paul Ewing.
Hi.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Heidi. How are you doing?
Doing well.
Good.
Thank you. It's too hot. I don't like this. Hot and humid, but that's okay.
It's the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Heidi, I'll go ahead and kick things off here briefly, if that's okay. I see. Okay, so Doug is there. Welcome. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Those of you that don't know me, I'm Samantha Marshall, Associate Director of Alumni Engagement here at the University of Toledo Alumni Association. I received my graduate degree from the College of Health and Human Services here at the university and look forward to connecting with all of you, our fellow alumni and friends. I do want to mention that this is the 100-year anniversary of the Alumni Association. I know I've mentioned that throughout the last couple of months, but celebrating this, exciting year, we're so thankful for opportunities such as this to stay connected to all of you and look forward to many more connections, potentially hybrid, virtual, and in person to come as we navigate ourselves out of this pandemic. But now I would like to introduce the gentleman who has been instrumental in setting up these monthly connections. I know how much you love attention and recognition, Mr. Doug Ramel, who is not only a graduate of the Honors College and a philosophy alum, but he is also our 2020, 2021.
Would you stop it already, please?
His face looks like as we say this, but our Distinguished Alumni Award winner, who we are very much looking forward to awarding this award in October. So I knew I was going to get that out regardless. I had my mouse over the mute button if I had to mute you to let me get that out. But I will go ahead and turn it over to you, Doug.
Thank you, Sam. I appreciate it. Actually, you got me blushing when you said gentleman. That was the first one right there. And I don't know if you noticed, but Nancy burst out laughing when you said gentleman. So right there you go. But welcome, everybody. Obviously, it's the month of June, soon to be July. So we're really happy that everybody's attended. We got a great opportunity today in that I'll let Nancy introduce herself here in a little bit. But as we have want to do on these calls, if we could go around the room just quickly and have everybody just introduce, say a couple things about yourself so that Nancy kind of knows who she's talking to. Robert, let's start with you. We all know you very well, but obviously she doesn't. So go right ahead.
Unmute and I'm on. Thanks, Doug, for kicking that off and passing the baton over to me. My name is Bob Schultz, Nancy, and I am, as of July 1st, going to be the official full-time Associate Dean and Chair of Faculty for the Honors College. I'm a professor of gifted and talented education, so I work with those profoundly gifted kids that are the vast majority of our honors students that are coming into the program. So this is really like home for me. Getting to know all of you as alums and then tapping into your expertise and trying to help our newbies that are coming in along the way and find those connections so that way they can go out and do wonderful, super phenomenal things in their lives as well. Nice to meet you.
Cool. Hey, Paul, can you go next?
Sure, I can go next. Hi, Nancy. Hi, Doug. Paul,
How are you, Paul?
Russian Studies undergraduate major, master's in European history. Probably the most important thing I did was I was a full-time teacher of history and philosophy at Yavapai College in Central Arizona for 28 years. And I retired emeritus.
Cool. Carly, why don't we have you go next?
Thank you. My name is Carly Lacuda. I am the Advancement Communications Coordinator at the University of Toledo Foundation. So I work with Sam and Andrea. I see that she's not across from me in her cubicle today. She's working from home. But I graduated from the University of Toledo in 2019. I was the last class to graduate in person before the pandemic. I squeaked that out in December. Double majoring in marketing and entrepreneurship. So, yeah.
Cool. Hey, Josh, why don't you go next?
Thanks, Doug. Hi, everybody. My name is Josh Martin. I'm the Assistant Director of Student Services here in the Honors College. I wear multiple hats. I do some supplemental advising for students, but most relevant for this conversation today, I also am the point person on all of our admissions outreach efforts, from the college, with the support, obviously, of the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. And I'm also I guess a two-time graduate of the university. I earned 2 bachelors, one in religious studies and one in philosophy, graduating in 2009, I think it was. Yeah. And was an honor student at the time. So, it's a great honor to be here joining you folks.
Cool. Paula, you want to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, I came out of hiding since we were doing introductions and I finished my burrito. I am Paula Ashley, and I am a member of the Division of Marketing and Communications here at the University of Toledo. I am the marketing strategist who supports, among many other things, our friends at the Jesup Scott Honors College. Thank you for the cue behind you, Heidi, so I remembered how to say it properly. I also am principally in charge of projects executed on behalf of student enrollment, and that means pretty much all students here. I've got direct from high school, I've got international, I've got graduate students. I also serve directly the University College, College of University College. You know what I'm saying. So there's a lot that we do, but the Honors College is near and dear to my heart. And Josh, if I'd have known you were a religious studies major, you'd have been even more near and dear to my heart because I'm working on a second degree in religious studies at the University of Toledo. So
Wonderful.
And after that, who knows what will happen.
There you go. Cool, cool, cool.
Nice to meet everybody.
And then Andrea, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Paula, don't feel bad. I was eating too. So that's why I was in the midst of making a batch of butterbean artichoke like dip for my toast. So no worries. I'm Andrea and I work at the UT Foundation. I'm a development officer there and I'm affiliated with 4 colleges, the College of Law, Judith Erb College of Education, College of Arts and Letters, and then also the College of Natural Sciences and Mathematics, and am slowly, I feel like, getting tugged into Honors College. As you can see, Heidi will reel me in, and I have a feeling that might stick. But I'm happy to help in any way that I can. I've been with the foundation for 1.5 years now. Originally spent nearly 25 years in retail management. So ran multiple stores and, now it's a very different silo, to go from having associates answer to me. And now I just answered kind of to myself, I feel like. But I'm happy to be here. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration. Originally, I was going for psychology and counseling. And then now I'm actually working on my master's in higher education administration. My hope next year is to tack on health coaching. I'm very interested in nutrition and holistic nutrition, so wellness coaching as well. Throw that in there. So that's me.
So we need to talk about that at some point. So
food? I love to talk about food.
Yeah, well, I love to eat food, but I have a number of companies that are interested in that whole coaching piece. So we need to discuss that. So
I would love that, Doug.
Cool. And then last but not least, of course, Heidi, would you like to kind of introduce yourself and then give kind of an update on where we're at with the Honors College?
Well, I'd be happy to, except I'd like Jeff to go first.
Did I miss somebody? Oh my God. Hey, Jeff Cole.
Hey,
when did you begin, dude?
I just joined. I can't stay long, but I wanted to say hi to Nancy. Nancy, I missed you. How you been? I'm Jeff Cole. I lead corporate communications at Dana. Not an honor student, but friend of the college. So, and I heard Nancy was going to be on, so I decided to.
Well, welcome.
Good to see you, Jeff.
And I got pulled into something else here. I may kind of come and go here, but I'll try to participate. Anyway, good to see everyone. And Nancy, can't wait to see you on camera here and what you have to say.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. And Jeff, by the way, you're an honorary member of the Honors College.
The only way I ever got anything was honorary, but
Well, we might be able to remedy that. We'll see.
he was honorary, yeah, you mean.
Anyway, I'm obviously Heidi FOD, the Honors College. I've been in higher ed my whole life, 20 years at Penn State, 10 years at University of Missouri. And then I had the kind of honor of coming here to lead the Honors College 5 years ago. And just renewed my contract. So I'm excited about the next 5 years. In any case, and I'm a plant biologist, so I do research on plants and insects and how plants tell what's going on in the world around them. The Honors College is really different from when many of you that were alums were here. We're, depending on the year, we're well over 1,000 students, maybe 1,100, and you can be in the Honors College regardless of your major on campus. So that didn't used to be the case. And so we have lots of students from all majors. Because the nature of our campus, we're about 70% STEM students because of the pharmacy, nursing, natural sciences, and mathematics, engineering. And then we have, our curriculum is a little bit more regulated than Ramel used to just say, oh, I want to learn about this, find somebody to teach it, and then coerce a bunch of you, several of you on this call to sign up for it. So it would be taught. And now there's actually a fixed curriculum that integrates really closely with honors in their individual majors. And so they can, without any extra coursework, they can actually seamlessly get an honors experience in their majors, but also within the Honors College, which is now focused on really polishing a lot of the professional skills that they need. Now, some of them are obvious: critical thinking, good communication skills, but we've layered on that cultural competency, the ability to work collaboratively, and emphasis on embedding creativity in the classes too, to develop that design thinking for the students. So that's where we are right now. And we've been, thanks to Josh and Paula, we've been actually able to tell our story more effectively in the last couple years. And so we're finding that our visits rates are way up, web visits rates, our engagement rates, by a number of metrics are up. And actually our enrollments are up now compared to the rest of the university, which is great for us. And so we're excited about thinking now about other ways to reach out to high ability students.
I would just like to add to what Heidi said about the website. The metrics on the honors website indicates that it's one in which we have one of the greatest depth of engagement of any portal on the University of Toledo website. The students that are coming there are digging in and finding out what the opportunities are. And that's a really great thing to see. And thanks in no small part to much that Josh does to keep the content fresh and relevant. So I want to pass that back to your team.
Cool. Well, hey, thanks everybody for introducing yourself, and Heidi, thank you very much for that update.
He's muted. Is that right? Doug, you're muted.
Oh, I was being so poetic. You guys missed it completely.
Liar.
No, so thank you very much for that update, Heidi. And thanks for all the introductions. Our featured guest today is, and I'm very excited to introduce her, is Nancy Ryder Salisbury. Nancy graduated in 1990 or 91, I believe. And I'll let her tell your, I'm back. I'll let her tell her story. But I can just tell you that she's a very talented professor teaching in marketing and social media and communications. I've actually had one of her best students working for me this summer, and she's actually going to be leaving working for me this summer because she got a full-time gig already. And so she's been very talented. Nancy was very involved in student government, as Jeff will remember and attest. She was, if I remember correctly, a Tri Delta sorority sister, and got involved in a number of different things on campus, and was one of the leaders. She was a proud graduate of Whitmer High School, and Toledo West Sider, and got involved in a number of things while at the university. So with no further ado, Miss Ryder, would you like to, or Miss Salisbury, would you like to tell us your story?
Well, that was such a lovely introduction. Thank you, Doug. And what an inspirational group of people we have here. This is just absolutely wonderful. Thank you all for taking your time to learn more about social media and reaching out to students, because that's what it's all about, right? Trying to take the next generation, take the next step, and help them achieve their dreams. And my dreams definitely started at the University of Toledo. I was a first generation college graduate. So that was a really big thing. I remember my dad was so excited my freshman year at the University of Toledo. He went out and bought a typewriter for me. You know, one of those ring-a-ding ones where it rings through and you click it and it came back. So that's how I started my college experience at the University of Toledo. And it was absolutely wonderful. Professor Day was one of my favorite professors. He was in the Department of Communication, Public Relations. He really helped launch my career and really set the trajectory for my research and how I wanted my career to go. So in his courses, I learned about public relations in terms of the sense of that it's not just publicity or dumping information out. If you practice it in its truest sense, it's in the form of trying to create a mutual understanding with your audiences. So you have to be able to listen to your audiences to create these opportunities to help your organization or your brand move forward. So after I graduated from the University of Toledo, I went to Helena, Montana, and was a college admission counselor there at Carroll College, a Catholic college. And then I went to Bradley University and was a college recruiter there as well, but I lived in Southern California. From there, I went to Cal State Fullerton and got my graduate degree in public relations. And at that point, I went and lived in Poland, and I worked at Burson Marsteller, which is a great big international PR organization. And I studied the downfall of communism and the rise of a free press society, because you have to have a free press to have PR, and how the two come together, and listen to their audiences and move forward. It was really, really interesting at that point because, doing my research, which I'm sure you all have done lots of research yourselves, but being in another country and how they look at Americans and how they look at the free press, because it was just opening up there in the late 90s, early 2000s in the interaction. So from there, I came back and worked in healthcare in corporate America. I did my stint with them until KKR bought out my company. If y'all know who KKR is, or you're not familiar with them, you could read the book Barbarians at the Gate. They are the first people who did a hostile takeover of a company called Nabisco. We were I'd say about 10th, 12th in line. They tried taking over Cedar Point at one point, one of their subsidiaries. Yes, Cedar Point held them off. I know. And then from there, I went, my husband and I moved to Austin, Texas. And that's where I worked on my PhD, which is in social media and technology. And my focus is on corporate social responsibility. And that's kind of where we are here in the world. We need more companies to be socially responsible in their actions and how they interact with their stakeholders. That's kind of my introduction. I do have another story I could tell, but I don't know if I'm supposed to have questions.
Well, so talk about how you got to where you're at, right? I mean, what was it? Number one, what do you think the biggest benefit that you got out of going to Toledo? How'd you make the choice to go to Toledo? Obviously, you were from Toledo. So what was it like to be from Toledo, going to Toledo? Did you hang out with only Whitmer people? et cetera, et cetera. And then how did that then set the foundation, if you will, for what has come after?
That is so funny that you asked that question. I just took one of my kids to visit University of Toledo about 2 weeks ago, and we absolutely loved it. It was a great campus tour. Why did I go there? Because I was first generation. I didn't know where else to choose. In all honesty, my parents, they didn't know how to guide me. We did look at other universities around, but I lived at home, so that's how I picked UT. I picked communication because I like to talk and I like to listen. So I think that's how that major came about. No, I did not just hang out with Whitmer people, not even maybe the first week. But I can remember meeting all my girlfriends. And no, I hung out with people from all places.
Right.
Student government, that was huge.
Okay. And so what was it? So how did you get your first gig? How did that happen? Because you graduated 90 or 91?
1990.
Okay. Because I graduated in 92 and I couldn't find anything to do. So I had to go write speeches and work in political campaigns. How did you find something to do?
Well, ironically, I went to the counseling office at University of Toledo, and they talked to me and they said, well, what do you like to do? And I would talk and talk and talk and talk. And I talked about how much I loved college and what a great experience it was. And they said, you need to be an admissions counselor. So I went to the Chronicle of Higher Education and applied everywhere. I sent out tons and tons of resumes in the mail. To places all across the country, except California and Texas, because I didn't want to live there, which ironically, I've ended up living there. A couple of the places that called me, I went out for interviews, but I fell in love with Carroll College in Helena, Montana. It's in the Rocky Mountains. I'd never been that far from home. And my boss, her name was Candy Kane. How fun is that? Yeah, that really is her name. And we just had a delightful time. My territory was east of Helena. So it's like Billings and Bozeman. And then you go up to the border. And I would drive, it would take 12 hours. I would drive up there and I just met all these great students. And I also had California in Arizona. And then when I was a recruiter in Southern California, that's how I met my next boss.
Gotcha. So what was it like having to recruit California and the West Coast to try to convince kids to go to Peoria, Illinois?
That's a great question. Hawaii was my territory as well when I worked at Bradley University. And they just loved, they wanted something different. Fair enough. How I would promote that part of the country was you're getting the Midwest values, you're getting Midwest education. This is the fabric of our being, as a country. You're going to have lots of connections and lots of great majors, the people you're going to meet. That's the one thing I would say to the students is, when you would choose a college, and I say that, and I have kids right now that are, going through the college decision-making process and two that are in college. The people that you're going to be going to college with, those are going to be your lifelong friends. Those are the people that they're going to be your connections. And I've been hearing that on campus tours when we go and visit, like at USC, they'll say, and I forgot the number, but they'll say, and we have, 500,000 living alumni that you can be connected with. And that was a really big selling point for my kids. They're like, well, gosh, I can be friends with all those people, and I can find a job somewhere through there. So that's how I would promote. Okay.
So let me ask you this. Obviously, putting on your professional hat, right? How, and obviously, why don't you talk a little bit about what you do at St. Edward's and how you go about teaching your students and what you teach your students?
All right, I teach students social media and public relations. Those are the two areas. Oh, and presentational speaking. So I'm really big into being the gateway professor. So I always want to make sure I teach incoming freshmen. I teach 2 of those courses because I want to lay the foundation, because I feel I got a really good foundation at the University of Toledo. And I try to ask, I'm in a small enough college where I try to ask them to get first generation students in my class. Because as we know, as a gateway professor or gateway class is presentational speaking, if you set that foundation for them, they're going to be more successful. And there you go. But then I also love teaching, the juniors and seniors who can't wait to launch. So I teach social media, public relations. I'm teaching my students how to not just push out information on social media, which I'm Josh, it sounds like that's something that you're doing. And Paula, you're interacting with the students and you're listening to them and trying to find out, well, what do you want to hear about our university? What stories do you want to connect with? And it's more about that type of engagement. So that's a little bit of a different, I think, mindset. The students will come into my class. They're very agile, their fingers flowing across the keyboard. I mean, they're digital natives. One thing when they walk out of the class, they all almost, I would say 90% of them say it was, wow, I didn't realize how much listening was involved in social media.
Okay. Well, and then talk a little bit about trends. I mean, so obviously you've been involved in, from the point where you were a college student yourself to recruiting college students to now teaching college students. Are college students different today than they were 30 years ago? And how are they different? What makes them, what motivates them? What have you noticed?
Absolutely different. And they're absolutely different than they were 3 or 4 years ago. So you and us sitting here, I mean, how we interact is we can still interact and feel comfortable interacting in person. People that are digital natives and people that have grown up with their parents, for better or for worse, arranging all their play dates. And now when the people are on social media, they typically will get introduced from someone that is already in their friend group, already in their silo, somebody that they know. So I think today's students need more of a connection or a recommendation to a university or a program than maybe they did in the past, because I feel that they're not as willing to take a chance. That's what I've seen to find, because they just don't know how to make the connections. They seem to need to have it be recommended by somebody else. So It's like we're connected, and in terms of the degrees of connection, they're wide, but they do want to see that somebody else has been interested in the program, or someone else has taken this course, or someone else has gone on this campus visit.
Okay. I gotcha. So if you were running an admissions recruitment service for an honors college, say for a public university that's in a mid-sized city in the middle of the Midwest, how would you go about doing that?
That's a loaded question. I would tell stories. That's how we as humans connect. We've been doing that for centuries, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Tell stories. Students love video snippets. Figure out how to leverage TikTok. If you can get a 60-second TikTok story on there, boom, you're golden. And I'll give you social media note. People who are on social media know this already, but they want to see themselves. Yes, Carly?
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I will say my roommate works for the University of Toledo, like overall admissions, and we were walking my dogs on campus the other day, and she was talking about how they're going to hold some sort of workshop in the fall when they get their new student workers, and she said that's the thing that they lack in their overall university tours is the they can walk backwards perfectly, they can give the tours physically perfectly, but they'll be like, so yep, this is student union, okay, moving on. And she says that they even the overall university recruiters really lack telling the stories as current students. Like, you're a sophomore, you had a whole, well, I guess given COVID, but theoretically you should have had at least a year to talk about your favorite memories, the best restaurants to eat at in the student union, and even they're not even willing to make those peer connections. So even with like the honors college or not, the whole university is struggling to do that. So I just wanted to say, like, you are so on point, because my roommate was just talking about that the other day.
So tell stories like that at Dog, that would be a great example. You could do a little gig of this is how we walk our pets on campus, because that's something that people could connect with, even if you can't bring your pet. Just kind of, you know, make the connection, make it so that they can see how it applies to their life. Like you said, Carly, this is where I eat in the student union. I will say on the campus tour, they did a great job talking about the library, because I whispered to my kids, I was like, I wonder if they still have the silent floor, which they do, the 5th floor. And my kids asked me if I ever was up there, and I said yes. But I have a loud laugh, so they knew I got kicked off of that floor several times. True story. But you know what, Carly, you can take that back to your roommate, is that was really the people that were in our tour. That's when they perked up, was when she was telling the story about the different floors in the library. It was really, really fun.
So speaking of stories, Nancy, what would be one of your favorite stories from the University of Toledo? What's one of the things that you found most consequent? Well, let me put it this way. What would be one of your favorite stories, just period? And then what was something that happened to you that at the moment you didn't think anything of it? It wasn't a big deal. And now, you know, years later, having looked at how your life has progressed, you suddenly have realized, man, that was actually a big deal.
Well, we'll take off meeting Jeff Cole and Doug Ramel off that list. Those would be at the top of the list.
Oh, please.
We had so much fun. If you guys saw us running around. So I guess there's, you know, you have your social aspect and your academic aspect. I have 2 academics. Can I tell 2 academics and then the one
Absolutely.
Okay. So
Absolutely.
In terms of the academic, the first one was in sociology, and it was the professor, and I don't even know his last name because we could only call him Randy. He was young. Randy was his name. He was a PhD. He was young. His wife also taught at UT, and just how he opened my eyes to, wow, you can do things differently than what your parents taught you to do. Pooh! I mean, that was just this huge awakening. I was like, wow, I can have my own thoughts. I can go down a different avenue. And he specifically pointed me out and had me read this book. And I'm embarrassed to tell you what it was, but it was a great book. It was called The Cinderella Complex. That just really set me on a different trajectory, that I could use my brain to you know, be a better person, make a better impact. And the other one was with Professor Day, and I use this in my class all the time. That's why I smiled. It was during one of his journalism classes, and Professor Day said, "All right, when you're writing your stories, and you need to get your sources, I don't care what they say. You got to get a second source." And the example that he used. I see Jeff smiling. He may have this as well. The example he uses, so let's say you're writing a story about love and your mother says, "I love you." You still have to go get a second source. You can't just write, "My mother loves me." So I've used that story all along with all my students and say, this is how I learned journalism. It's not just hearsay. You have to have the, you know, the secondary sources, the credible sources. And I use that funny one. Because it makes me laugh.
I use it too.
You remember that one, Jeff?
Your mother says she loves you. Check it out.
Yeah, I know. You need a second source. Paula, what the thing of it is you couldn't just write a fact down just because one person said it. You had to go for the credibility, and it couldn't just be one person. We couldn't just take it at face value. That was the joke of it. I kind of got to the punchline ahead of myself. I'm sorry. Now my favorite social event was freshman year. Jenny, Cindy, and Melissa and I were walking out of the student union, and Jenny is also, they're all freshmen. And Jenny's sister, who is a senior, is walking out of, at the business end of campus. We're walking out of the student union. And Jenny's sister yells across the campus, her name is Cindy too. She yells across the campus, "That's my sweater." She can see her sister with her sweater on. And you know, we're four little freshman girls. We're like, oh my God, she's gonna kick our ass. And we run. She never caught us. Yeah, so that's one of my favorite college stories. How far and big the campus is, but really how fast a big sister can run to get their little sister.
Too funny. Well, hey, so one last question for me, and then I'll kind of open it up to everybody else. What have you learned either in the way that your own kids were recruited and chose their colleges that if you were able to go back in time, you would have done differently in your own path?
So are you saying what did I like how that they received in terms of their recruitment that I might not have received or didn't do?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, you know what? When I was at Carroll College, and that was when we were first, I mean, that's when we did stuff by zip code range. Okay. I mean, you know, you'd said something, I'd be like by zip code. Nowadays we do it by very targeted. So that's a difference, but I think that's just a result of technology, how that's evolved. I really like how the universities have been so individualized in terms of recruiting my students. Very, very specific. You know, I'll take a mom brag right now. I have a college athlete that's an All-American studying engineering at the Colorado School of Mines. Team captain this year, woo woo. And then I have another engineer at A&M, so a big school. And I loved on her campus tour, this is great, she had blue hair at the time. She walked in and there were 5 engineers, and the dean or the associate dean asked a question because they did very, very small groups. And it was a big deal that the dean came in. And it was even for the students. Because I said, you know, this person is a person that's in charge. And she's like, yeah, I know. He asked a question and the four boys tried to answer it. And then my daughter answered it and he's like, and you are 100% correct. So I think that was really cool how he played it out and she answered it and made her feel really good. She was like, okay, I'm enrolling. Oh, one more thing. Have any of you ever visited the Texas A&M? Oh, okay. Oh, you guys went there for that student government. Okay. All right.
When we were building the rec center, that was one of the.
Oh, yes.
We visited,
Yeah. Oh, they've just added a 3rd rec center there. So as a mom, I did not want my dog. I'll be honest with you. I was not a fan of Texas A&M. I thought it was too conservative for me, just point blank. And when we went for the parent thing, I said to my husband, I leaned over, I said, I am not going to drink their Kool-Aid. You know, the first day, absolutely not. By 9 o'clock that night, I had to lean back over to him and say, dude, I've drank a gallon. Just because there was so much energy and it was so positive and it was so much support. I will say that is a school that knows how to do school spirit. That it's just explosive. But it's the telling of the stories. So that they would tell stories and my daughter could see, oh, I can see what I'm going to look like as a freshman. I can see what I'm going to look like as a sophomore there. Oh, when I'm a junior, I'm going to get to do this. I'm going to get my Texas A&M ring. It was just very, very clearly spelled out to her when we went on the campus tour.
I have a hypothetical question for you, Nancy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like the audience to imagine a 65-year-old new hire, a professor at the University of Toledo, who's a Rip Van Winkle character has not the slightest idea about social media, doesn't even know what the term social media means. How would you get that teacher plugged in to the digital natives?
That is a very good question. And that happens in my department, because I do, believe it or not, have some people who, first of all, it's nothing to be afraid of. I mean, we all have to start someplace. I would figure out how to get, and see, this is where I'm at a disadvantage, because I ask my kids at dinner every night, so what's going on TikTok today? Oh, because what's going on TikTok today is not what's going to be going on TikTok tomorrow. All right. I learned that the hard way, because I was talking about Pudgy the dog way after Pudgy the dog was no longer. So find someone that maybe, do you have like a student or one of like your student interns? Kind of, maybe you guys could have a, this is what's going on TikTok today. And if you mention, just drop those every once in a while in the class. I think that that's a way that the students can connect with you. Just a couple of the phrases. And I don't know if y'all can have it, you teach how to use it correctly, because I'm doing it with my own kids. Because I'll say, okay, is this how you say it? And they'll be like, no, you got to say it this way. Does that kind of answer your question?
Sure.
So maybe if the university can give you the access.
So Nancy, let me ask it this way. So when I worked in political campaigns, we used to pull together press clippings packets daily. That literally was, what was happening in certain, whether it was political districts or, whatever, what were the hometown stories that you wanted your particular political guy to know? Are you talking that same kind of thing? Almost like a digital daily newsletter? Frozen. Oh, that's not good.
I lost Nancy.
Yeah, it looks like she's frozen. I'll ask the question because I am not a social media guru by any means, but does anyone know, does the university have a TikTok? No? Okay. Hi, Nancy, it looks like you're back.
Okay, I'm sorry about, and you know what, if you do bring on something like a TikTok or something like so you have to have somebody who's monitoring it. That's another thing that I've found out. We can't just start throwing stuff at the wall. If you're going to try something on social media, the kids expect the engagement. So and this is the big challenge when I work with entrepreneurs, and they'll think, oh, we can just start a social media channel and run with it. No, you can't, because you have to have someone on the other end ready to engage with the people who are ready to engage with you. Are you Carly and Josh, are you guys finding that?
I also think it's pretty interesting that engagement increases drastically when you stray away from your brand, because I, in my role at the University of Toledo Foundation, the main thing I do is we have lots of people within the company writing pieces. Well, then it comes to me and I try to make it sound like it came from U Toledo, as if U Toledo was their own person. Like everything sounds like them. Mm-hmm. So then you couldn't tell if Andrea wrote something versus if Todd wrote something. It all sounds like the same person. Well, Josh, I don't actually, if anyone was at the university during my time from 2016, 2019, I don't know if you guys remember, there was a social media thing that went out that if there got so many likes on a tweet, they would officially change the mascot to Shrek.
Yep, that was the thing.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember that.
I remember it really well. And it was not something that was especially because the institution is used to dealing with those kinds of message with that messaging stream in a certain way. Mm-hmm. They didn't really figure out that the weirdness of it was an advantage. Yes. And it was apologies, and there was like, oh no, and don't ever do that again. It was probably the best thing we ever did. So
but it went so well in the students' eyes. Like when it came to engagement, I can't even tell you the amount of likes it had. It got like news publicity, like news places wrote articles on it and all of those kinds of things. So it's so funny that I can spend hours writing a post that sounds like U Toledo and I'll get maybe 10. But if you throw something completely out of the box or left field, that's when you'll get 100,000. So it's such a game you have to play, because it's like, do you want to be on brand? Do you want to sound this way all the time but then jeopardize your engagement? Or do you be quirky every once in a while to bring those students back? Because sometimes at this point, when I am reading like U Toledo content, my eyes kind of glaze over, especially now that I'm looking at it every day for work. And then when I go home on my personal time reading it on my phone, it's just, I don't know. It's such a pandemics box. That's not the right term, but you guys know what I'm trying to say. It just, social media is so complicated because it's almost like a living thing at this point.
Well, the other difficulty with branded communication is that there's a I don't know if it's dialectic is the right word, but there is a dynamic tension between spontaneity and control that just is really hard to resolve, I think. And the institutional impulse is toward control, where the individual impulse is towards spontaneity. And because you are not rewarded for a failed spontaneous moment, the tendency is to be controlled. And then that's true of every institution. And that's why all campus communications sound the same from almost every school. I think it's really a difficult thing to be on brand and seem spontaneous. It's just not easy.
I almost like, this is a personal thing. It's also not necessarily towards the foundation. And this is an alumni's opinion, not my personal faculty opinion. So no one get me in trouble. But I feel like the university also almost structures what they're saying to almost not open it to dialogue, because they fear the repercussions of the concerns and things that students are upset about. They don't want the students to talk about them. So I feel like that's kind of interesting also.
Hey, Nancy, actually talk a little bit about, I know you had Brennan do that kind of school campaign as part of your class. Talk a little bit about the success and the difficulty that group had with that school campaign. And then also talk a little bit about brand management via social media through, what was the cereal brand that ended up with the social media firestorm, ended up on Saturday Night Live?
Oh yeah, what was that, Cookie Crisp or no, one of those. Okay, so the class project that we work with, and it's a junior senior level class, it's called Social Media for Social Good. And the students come in and we put them in groups, and it's a hands-on, and right from day one, they're gonna choose a social justice issue. And then they're going to run a campaign over the next 17 weeks across 3 media platforms. And they do blogging. We do that first, and the blogs get posted with the credibility and the links. So we teach them how to do the blogs. And then the tweets, there's lots of tweets going on. The students have to do one a day for, I think it's 14 weeks. So that's a lot. And then they have the third media platform of their choosing that they think best fits their audience. So they have to try and stay on brand voice. So it's kind of back to what Carly was talking about. So the beauty of this project is they're learning teams, how to work collaboratively, back to what Heidi said, because that's what we're really pushing there, the communication. They create the policies and the procedures of the team. And then they create the brand voice. And we've done anything. We had homelessness. There's a lot of green energy projects. I'm forgetting which one was specifically Brennan's, but
Did we lose her again? Doug, can you hear us?
No, I can't hear, but I kind of assumed it was me. Can you hear me?
Oh, now we can, yeah. We lost Nancy.
Well, let's see if she comes back. But let me ask this to you guys. So what kind of work, obviously we have people at the University of Toledo that teach social media and communications. I'm not sure in what college, but do we do anything with student groups or student projects as a way to help or assist in the marketing of the university itself or the Honors College?
That is a good question. Sorry, Nancy, we lost you briefly.
I can probably answer that question. I can't speak specifically to the Honors College, but when we use students on campus, those students have to be in paid internships. And I can tell you that volunteer student efforts are not successful because students are very busy people with many more important priorities than promoting the university. So we do have student interns on campus. In fact, the gentleman who's been doing some amazing video blogs here for the university, started out in the department, the social media department, as an intern, student intern. Most of the people, actually, I think the guy who runs the department started as a student intern. So we've got a channel, but students don't do projects for promoting the university. And I think there's probably good reasons why that's not done from an instructor's perspective, right?
Well, I guess one of the things that I would throw out that I've had tremendous success for is that kids love to compete and they love to win awards. And so we did, for instance, for one of my companies, we did out of Indianapolis that was all geared around March Madness when Indianapolis hosted the NCAA tournament. And so we asked, we did a whole play off of the Back Home Again in Indiana, as well as there's a common phrase that's thrown around in Indiana that in the other 49 states, basketball is just a game, but in Indiana, it's a religion, which is semi-true, actually, but that's beside the point. So we did a whole video competition, but the NCAA got a hold of us, and so we had to quit the March Madness video competition, and it became the March Madhouse competition. And it was all about who loves basketball more and why, and what did basketball mean to them. And we got 45 video submissions from high school kids and college kids. And the award was that they were going to get some free software, which we've provided it, but it really didn't matter what the hell the award was. They wanted to compete. And then of course they all had to create video for their portfolios. And we were overwhelmed by the response that we got. And I think that kind of stuff might be interesting to do. I don't know if you could do an all campus video competition. Because the one thing that's clear, I know with my own teenagers, if a picture doesn't get taken or a video doesn't get made, then something didn't happen. And so, whether you're talking about graduation or you're talking about homecoming or you're talking about going to a dance or whatever. And I think that kind of self-attention seeking behavior is something you can harness if you're creative about it. But you got to do it in such a way that obviously you get a chance to approve everything before it goes out on the internet, because you don't want an inappropriate message. You don't want an inappropriate picture going out. That I understand completely.
We do some things like that in honors to varying degrees of success with our current students, and that's been, like I said, we've had, sometimes it's pretty successful, sometimes it's a little bit lukewarm response, but we do those kinds of things with current students. The problem from our end, and perhaps this is true for any of the unique units, degree granting colleges or other offices, is operationalizing that for recruitment, right? Because obviously to reach any sizable population of students that are not yet enrolled here, but thinking about coming here, they have to be following you, right, to get that kind of content or be looking for your channels. The university as a whole, I think, does that pretty well. But when students come to campus to visit, they might follow the university account. They might not necessarily follow, either the unique colleges or the honors college or whatever. So it's that can be a little bit of a challenge, I think, in just getting them, getting their eyeballs or their follows, such that they can even access our content. But at least with the current students, yeah, we've had success with that.
I see Nancy is back and we have like 3 minutes to go before 1 o'clock. And I'm wondering if I could ask a quick question. One of the things I'm really curious about with respect to teaching social media is the fact that it's such a moving target. Like, it's not exactly like teaching accounting. And so I'm curious to know what you do, Nancy, to keep ahead of the game when you're teaching people who are maybe even able to teach you in some cases. Can you share some information about that?
That's a great question. And yes, in some cases, they are further ahead in terms of the latest platform. I just stick to the basics. Whatever stories that you're going to tell, it has to be credible. It has to be honest. You have to be transparent. Has to be engaging. You have to tell a story. That's how I teach it.
So you're coming at it from a journalism principle perspective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Yeah, because I'm coming at it as that I'm going to leverage social media to build relationships with the people that I want to build relationships with. So with Paul's question, he wants to build relationships with his students. So that's how he's going to leverage it. You don't necessarily, Paul, have to be the one pushing out the information, but you can consume the information and let the students know, I know what you're talking about. I have a pulse on the conversation. I'm listening to you. That is the biggest takeaway I have from the students is they want to feel that they're listened to. So that's how I come at it, Paula.
Thank you.
Nancy, that gives me an idea. I gotta wonder if it wouldn't be fascinating to have kids who are like high performance kids who are juniors and seniors in Toledo at St. Francis and maybe at some of the other high performing schools, have them put a video together about why they think they want to be in the honors program or the honors college at the University of Toledo, why they think it's so interesting or why they're what they're looking for. And then to your point, you could be able to listen to it and then market back to them what they're telling you is important.
I would assume they're already, Heidi, are they kind of already doing that when they write about trying to be admitted into the program?
Right now, there's a minimum set of criteria they have to meet, and then they're in. So getting in is not highly competitive in the sense that there's a limited number of spots for which they're competing. They're competing essentially against themselves for certain accomplishments to be able to get in.
Okay. But what kind of information are we finding out about them? And that's what you would build off of. That's what I've seen that the students want. I'm sure you already have this in the database. Are they interested in study abroad? It's not just their majors that they're interested in. I always ask, what are your favorite books? What music do you listen to? I do those questions, and honestly, I might teach 2 presentational speaking courses in the same semester, but I run them differently based on the students that are in the class. Because I look at those surveys and I make it interactive. You apply that same principle to social media. Social media is, it's not something to be scared of. I think because maybe we didn't grow up with it, we're like, oh my gosh, I'm nervous about it. It's just, they're reading a magazine. That's what social media is to them. But it's their magazine, their brand. That's how I look at it.
It's funny that you put it that way, Nancy. So IU and Purdue. So Purdue Mitch Daniels was the governor of Indiana and then moved over and became president of Purdue. And so he made a big deal about in Michigan, or Purdue and IU are big competitors. Deal about that Purdue was well, then the president of IU started out a special sign that said that students had been admitted at IU, and they then challenged students for a social media campaign to say, I choose IU, and they did this whole social media posting. So when you got admitted, you would take a picture of yourself with your IU sign out in the front yard. And their whole goal was to have more pictures on Twitter and TikTok and everywhere else of kids getting excited about going to IU than going to Purdue. And the whole thing just took off, I think much bigger than either one fully intended. And it was amazing amount, then obviously Popular Press got involved and all this kind of stuff. But it was all somewhat, I think it wasn't a really planned thing. It all became very organic and it just exploded.
And especially with honor students, you guys could, well, any university could try and play off that. Like, what do you want to do in the classroom now that we're returning back to the classroom? Especially these people that are coming specifically because they love learning. They want to think, they want to learn, they want to grow. Say, what are your expectations?
Mm-hmm.
How do you see yourself in the story?
I think that's a great suggestion and something we could certainly survey by email and social media our incoming students.
Mm-hmm. Because they're not doing anything else.
Right.
They're attached to this phone.
I think because all of our class sizes are small, so many of the faculty kind of do that in formal and informal ways when they're teaching. But I like the idea of a larger survey of all the incoming students. I'm looking at Bob because he's the survey master, among other things.
Cool. Well, hey, listen, guys, it's a little bit after 1 o'clock. Nancy, thank you so much for your time. This has been awesome. What I would love to do is pick your brain from time to time, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more questions that come out of this. Heidi, thank you very much for the update, and everyone, thanks for attending. We are shooting to have one of these in July, and I think what we're going to try to do is get some of the original presidential scholars from the first class, which graduated in 1990. So that was 31 years ago, as well as maybe the second class, which this would be their 30th anniversary. And we'll touch base with them and see where they've gone and how they've changed the world.
Thank you, Nancy.
Oh,
Thank you, Nancy.
Go Rockets! Fist bump. Boom. Nice. All right. Thank you. Y'all were wonderful.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Samantha. Thanks, Heidi. Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Nancy.
Safe travels.
Bye.
Paul, I would love if you, you're more than welcome